Welcome, everybody. It's your boy, the Versace Stoner, with another episode of VSW.
These sons will beat you.
That's right, folks. Big news flash. Oh my God! VSW.
Brass hats know what time it is. Get up off of your seats and bow down to the king.
One of the greatest in this game, and one of my favorite all-time people in this game. The Versace Stoner.
It's places like this. I started in a mill. I'm here still in a mill. I consider myself a mill wrestler.
Welcome, everybody. It's your boy, the Versace Stoner. We're here with a very special episode of VSW Podcast. Hey, we got Superstar Wrestling. The one and only Jake Oman. Welcome.
Well, thanks for having me, man.
We are, we've been hearing some, whispers of your name. We brought in somebody a couple of weeks ago talking Superclass. You were one of the names, the superstars he mentioned. I was like, well, let's reach out. Let's get in touch with him. And this is great. I love, like I said, you're not somebody that's technically like on my northeast radar. So a lot of my fans don't know who you are.
Yeah.
And that's what I like about this, being able to bring new names to my fans and my fans to new names.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't, it's not like I have a ton of name value in England. I haven't wrestled there hardly at all. So, but I've been traveling the world for the last 10 years, 23 countries so far. So, I'm really excited to come back to Super Clash and show everyone what I can do. That
is great. So let me ask you, when did you get into pro wrestling?
So I really dove in at 2009. Technically, I started training a few years before that when I was just a kid, but really started hitting the ground running in 2009. So we're looking at 14, 15 years, gone pretty hard now.
Okay. And let's see what we got here. So not only that you it's like now growing up, were you like a big fan of professional wrestling? Do you like watch it on TV?
Yeah, I was 13 when I saw it for the first time, and I was hooked right away. I caught an episode of SmackDown in 2000, and there was no turning back from there. I was glued to the TV, every single Raw, SmackDown, pay-per-view.
Yep. And it kind of just sets you up, and like once you get that in your head, once it comes down to it, I feel like when you say, I'm going to be a professional wrestler, there is no stopping that process. Unless injury. The injury is the only thing that can kind of stop that process. But, like, once you got it in your head, it's like your friends can be like, don't do it. Your parents will be like, no, we don't want to see you do it. Everybody can be like, no. And you're like, no, someday I'm going to hold the title. You'll see. Bye.
Yeah, the decision's already been made.
And it is kind of about, living your dreams as a kid. We all watch these shows on TV. We all saw these, great characters. And now, we are the great characters, not me personally, but, you guys are the great characters that, people are coming out to see at shows. People are, wanting to take pictures with. People are wanting to interview, different things like that. So it's really kind of cool to see the progression, as, people grow up into wrestling. I've known people that have just kind of gotten into like, the whole sport of it, kind of later in life. And they're like, well, I never really watched, the Hogan era. And I don't know what really Attitude Era was. I know a little bit about John Cena and The Rock and Roman Reigns is my man. But, yeah. And it's like, oh, that's cool too. But like, then I got other people, they've been, I was a young kid and I went, Madison Square Garden. I saw Randy Savage off the top and, and they have this whole glorified story of like what got them into the industry and what, what drives their passion.
Well, I think whatever age you are, like whatever era you grow up in seeing wrestling, doesn't matter if you're 5 years old or if you're 25 years old or 45 years old. I think whatever wrestling you see first is always going to be the most special to you. So, if somebody grows up nowadays, then, like the AEW era might be the most special toward them. Or if I'm talking to, people a little bit older than me, then obviously, it's going to be the Hulk Hogan. I saw wrestling for the first time in 2000. So to me, it's kind of like the ruthless aggression era was actually what meant the most to me. Like the guys who were feuding over the Intercontinental title were like Benoit, Jericho, and Angle, and like Eddie Guerrero was going hard, and Rob Van Dam. Like those were the guys that are going to be always like the most special to me, just because those were the first people I saw. So when I was only a year or two in, those were the guys I was watching. The like super athletic guys that later, you might term kind of like the more work rate guys. So like to me, that's always the most special. But it's hard to compare that to people who got into it 4 or 5 years before me when it was The Rock and Stone Cold Steve Austin were tearing it up. It was a different world in just a few years.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. I mean, even myself and speaking, like, growing up, obviously a huge pro wrestling fan since probably like, I mean, honestly, if I had to been asked, like, I kind of remember bits and pieces of like probably sitting around watching WrestleMania 2 with a family member, or it being like shown parts of. By like WrestleMania 5 or 6, I was really, really into it, and then, the 90s and so forth came in, and, wrestling just kind of evolved over the time. But there's one thing that was always, about those time periods was the size of the wrestlers and how big they were, especially in the 80s. Everybody was just larger than life.
Yeah.
Grandiose, muscular, just oh my god. And plus, being a kid and then hearing them, they're obviously adding numbers, learning later. They're adding, digits to their weight and size. But, at some point, you believe some of these guys are 550, 600 pounds. You're like, oh, Jesus. So, when I wanted, of course, wanted to be a pro wrestler. I love pro wrestling. But, when
Yeah.
I got out of school, I was like, I lived kind of close to the Killer Kowalski school. So I went in there, I wanted to see what it's about. And they were like, you're 5'8"? No, not going to happen. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
There's not much you can do right now in the industry. Fast forward, 20 something odd years. Now it's like size doesn't really matter. If you can work, you can work. Like the little man now has a spot. The big man has a spot. Everybody has a spot in pro wrestling. It's so much just kind of diversified.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, the crazy thing about size is I'm friends with a guy named Flash Flanagan who was a big star in Puerto Rico, but never really did a bunch with WWF, even though he was in developmental for a long time. But Flash was in the 1994 light heavyweight title tournament, and Flash is 6'4" tall, and he was 230 pounds, and he was in the light heavyweight tournament back then. Which is wild to think of now because he'd be a massive guy on the roster now. I mean, the WWE guys are still huge. I do a lots of local work for them when they're in my area, and I'm still walking around backstage. And I'm 6'1", so 186 centimeters, and 105 kilograms. 230 on a good day. So if I'm looking around and I'm seeing Sheamus and Cesaro and these guys that still dwarf me, like it's still a big man business. But hold on a second.
Yeah, you still with us there, Jake? Oh, there you are. You just cut out for a second.
There we go. Yeah. Yeah, no, I don't know what happened on that one. But yeah, so, it's still a lot of big guys in the business. But yeah, if you're, under 6 foot tall now, as long as you can go in the ring, you get a lot more opportunities than you would have 20 or 30 years ago.
No, definitely, definitely. Let me ask you. So, you've been doing this obviously one. What would you say it would been like your most like favorite match you've done?
That I've been in?
Yeah, like what's like your most memorable match you've done, like that you've been in that that just was your night.
Yeah, there's a few. And this is April 2 months ago. I had a match with Matt Cardona, which was a rematch from a show we'd had a year before, and it was at this big expo in Indianapolis, which is my hometown. And jam packed house, like 1,200 people. And that night, like we just went out there and crushed it. So like me and Matt Cardona, that was my biggest one over the last 5 or 6 years. And then at the very end of 2007, I had one match in Japan. It was December 10th of 2017 in Kurikan Hall, and I had this huge tag team match. Me and my partner Yuji Hino going for the Wrestle One tag titles in the main event of Kurikan Hall. And that was definitely the other one that had the biggest match of my career.
That's awesome. It's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what it's kind of about, just the memories and making the memories. It's not so much, the end result. It's like that journey along the way in a career. There's a lot of ups, there's a lot of downs. It's not always about the, just that superstar status. Getting there can be just as much, fun and rewarding. The people that you meet along the way, the contacts you meet, the people you see in the locker room, the people that you pass by, the opportunities that get made,
100%.
and this is a kind of the kind of business, is the more open you are, the more you kind of, just sit back and kind of listen to, whoever's been in there a little bit longer. You can get, I'm not saying that all the time you got to just listen, but, if you keep your ears open, a lot of the times, you can get very far rather than, just kind of trying to know your way around and thinking you know it all.
100%.
I've been in a few locker rooms since, and I just noticed that kind of notion, how it goes. Now you're going to be on a really nice card coming up soon, Super Clash. I talked to the promoter a couple weeks ago. A lot of big names. There's been a lot of big names on that card as well.
Oh yeah.
You have a great match coming up too. Tell me, how are you preparing for this? Are you excited for this one?
Oh yeah, I'm pumped. It's been 5 years since I've been to England, something like that. And I'll be honest, the couple times I've been, they weren't exactly the greatest experiences. I didn't have the greatest time with shows. So I'm looking to make this just a completely exceptional trip in every way. And I'm bringing a couple of my really good friends from the States with me. And then I'm super excited about my match. Sheik El Sham is very good. Like when I first heard that might be the match we had, I was pumped. Dude can go in the ring. Dude looks like $1,000,000. I think we have the opportunity to go out there and just have a fantastic match. And of course, like Super Clash has a ton of history behind it, like all the names that the promoter has brought in and the cards he's put together. It's always nice to step into a historic building and be on the same card that featured guys like AJ Styles or Tanahashi. And since a lot of people in England don't know who I am, it's my chance to really say, like, hey, I'm the caliber of these guys. If you don't know my name, but I'm the caliber of these guys. I'm going to work my ass off every ounce as hard as they would have, right? And I'm going to give you the show that they would have given you. So by the end of the night, I want you to mention me in that same sentence. I want people to be like, oh man, I've been to all the Super Clashes, and this guy and this guy and this guy have had the best matches we've ever seen. Like, I want to be in that conversation. And I know my two buddies that are coming with me, Jack Vaughn and Aaron Williams, they want to be in the same conversation, right? We're three guys that have been slept on for way too long. And it's the debut of both of those guys in that part of the world. So, like, we're all ready to just come up there and crush it.
It's really going to be something. And I've already gotten, since the last interview, a lot of, fans from my area being like, how am I going to be able to watch this? Where can I find it? Because, it's obviously, we're so used to this, our local indie shows, and then, whatever, IWTV we have here, and whatever other kind of, media for the local shows. But, international independent shows are kind of hard to find, to be able to watch streams of, unless, you know who's got it or who's filming it. And we've been keeping a kind of eye on that, because I do have a lot of people that are like very kind of interested in seeing this show. And it's because it is something new. Like I said, it's new to my demographic of people here. They weren't too familiar with the name or the brand. Which, like I said, it's all what it's about, is getting eyes and ears across the independent wrestling scene. And just, because it's one big scene, and it really can thrive when it all works together, in my opinion.
Oh, 100%.
This is, like I said, a very exciting card. Like, I talked to the guy, he came on, he's been doing this a while too. And, he was just talking names and just, how he, it's just like, it's his golden show. And like, it got me really interested in it too. To be honest, previous, I never really heard of it, except just, what I've seen on social media, previews and such. Yeah. But now I'm kind of invested in it. I got a cousin in London. I'm like, what are you doing in October?
Make it up to the show.
But yeah, it's just great to see, thrive, things just thrive. And when you say everybody's aboard to kill it, it's great to see the whole roster, behind just everybody just kind of coming together, making this product the best it possibly can be.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, let me ask you: if people wanted to find you right now, watch your matches, buy your merch, how could they all do all that?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So on all the social medias, I'm at Jake Oman 2012. So I'm most active on Instagram. You can also find me on Facebook. Not so much on Twitter these days. And then I have a pro wrestling tee store, pro wrestling tee slash Jake Oman 2012. You can get my merch there. You can hit me up personally and get my merch too. I have a couple of things that I sell exclusively that you can only get at shows or through me. So, which I'll be bringing to England too if people actually make it out to the show. And then on YouTube, just type in Jake Oman. My YouTube channel is at Jake Oman 2012 also. Also, White River Wrestling is my home base. That's my home company based here in Indianapolis. It's also the wrestling school I run. So there's White River Wrestling and Jake Oman are pretty easy to find on most of the social medias.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. And like I said, like on my podcast, I always like to bring guests back rather for the fans. So we'll be reaching back out after that super clash, and inviting people back on again to kind of be like, how was the experience? How was the show? How did it go? Was it, did it meet your expectations and so forth, so on. Yeah. But I really thank you for taking the time today, coming out, talking with me, spending some time here on the VSW podcast. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, for sure, man. Yeah, thanks for having me on. Yeah, for anyone who's listening, check out World Pro Wrestling, check out Super Clash, follow them on all the social medias and everything like that to figure out, how to watch the show, because the more you support this independent company, the more they can have awesome big shows like this. I know they have a lot of ideas for awesome stuff in the future, and the way to make that happen is to get more eyes on the prize, more people watching the shows, more people coming to see it live.
That is great. I can't wait to see what the future holds. Thank you again. Have yourself a great day.
Thank you, man. Yeah, you too. Appreciate it.